Hey guys, welcome back to the show. Today is December 18th, 2019. This show is sponsored by Negative Supply, the manufacturers of devices to help you digitize your film with a digital camera and a tripod or reproduction stand. They're going to be coming out with a 120 holder for 2020, so stay put to see that. I'll be announcing it in the news. But yeah, they're sponsoring the show and you should totally check it out. Plus, they want feedback. So remember, you guys can send anything you don't like about their product or things you would like them to make. Actually, listen to a podcast of them with Northeast Photographic Lab. I'm getting it wrong. I'll leave the link below, where they actually talk about maybe making some sort of automatic device to let you advance frame to frame, which is really cool because it's the only thing that you have to do by hand because, you know, your camera and all that. It's pretty cool. So yeah, thank you, Negative Supply. Then let's start off by film photography podcast. Probably the most, the oldest or first film photography podcast out there. Mentioned the show, the news. So thank you, Mike and Matt Mirage, that are, you know, mentioning the news and how it works. And the funny thing is, they said consistency, and today is Wednesday. So sorry for that, guys. I was kind of busy this week and I couldn't do the news yesterday. So you can listen to the latest, their podcast number 240, and they actually mentioned the news in I think minute 39 or so, but it's really interesting, the whole thing. They talk about other stuff, but I really like the podcast, and thank you for mentioning. Also, another thing, last week I mentioned about the pricing about Kodak Ektachrome, and the price in Europe was like $18 for a roll of film. 4x5 we had no pricing. Well, the FPP has the cheapest pricing for pre-orders in the 120, and it's not $18, it's something like $9 or $10 a roll. And the 4x5 is priced around $49-ish. So very good prices considering the European prices to compare. And you should totally check it out. So yeah, you can pre-order already in the US, and you'll be getting it very, very soon. Then we have an update from Ferrania, second video of Nicola answering questions that people are saying online and their Kickstarter and stuff, which is very interesting. They mention about why is it so hard to make film when a lot of other brands are coming out with films. They make a difference between manufacturing film and rebranding film, and that's one of the biggest things we see. Yes, there are a lot of brands coming out with film, but a lot of the brands are actually not making the film themselves. All you have to source is someone to you make the emulsion and then someone to do the converting, and that's why a lot of the brands actually don't make the film but just kind of like rebrand it. So they come along and explain all of that, all the issues they've had and all that, not into full detail, but it's interesting whatsoever. Also, they've been shipping that film in the US. A lot of people are getting their film. Then we have news from Cameradactyl. Ethan Moses has come out with the Brancopan on Kickstarter. And I had it in my hands. I interviewed Ethan. I'll leave the link below to what I saw and thought about the camera. It's a anamorphic format. I think it's 1 to 2.4 or 1. I don't exactly know the details, but it's not X-Pan. It almost is like an X-Pan, but it shoots onto 35mm film. It uses Mamiya press lenses. And the funny thing is, the Kickstarter is not to fund a camera. So you're not paying him to send you a camera. You're paying him for his IP, which is very interesting, totally different approach. So he's asking for money to pay for all the time he's spent to design this camera, and then he's going to give the files to the Kickstarter backers first, and then for everyone for free. So the problem is, he's been making cameras for a long time. He's designing cameras for a long time, but he's doing too much making and less designing, and he wants to do more designing. So this is an approach he's throwing at the community to see if we're willing to fund someone investing their time to design cameras and then giving them out for free. So it's a very modest approach to me. I think it's pretty cool to see. I had the camera in my hands. It's built to last. It's like a tank. He says that if you had to make it yourself, it could be a couple hundred maximum. But if he had to sell them, there would be $600 to $1,000 because of the time. So if you have the time and a printer, you should totally back this project. So very cool news from Cameradactyl. Then we have Stearman Press, which is actually sending now their 8x10 trade developing device to the people that backed their crowdfunding campaign, and soon will be in the market for anyone else. Then Ilford reached out and told me they had a darkroom survey they want you to answer. And you might think, darkroom survey, I don't want to answer that. Like, I don't use a darkroom. Well, they want people that use it and the people that don't use it to answer it, because they're looking to see what approach to give the community to make them maybe take the step or want to make the step. So if you're one of those that's either using a darkroom or is thinking that it could be cool or why I don't use a darkroom, you should totally take it. It takes around 10 minutes. I highly recommend you do it, and give Ilford some data to know which way to give towards the community: tutorials, videos, workshops, products, whatever it is. Then we have news from Leica that came out with a 90mm f1.5 M mount lens, which honestly, if you're shooting film at 90mm 1.5, you're basically how would I say? You're kind of like praying every time you shoot at f1.5. I'm sure that it makes a lot of sense for the digital shooters with peaking or stuff like that, or hybrid, viewfinder. But for film, it must be pretty hard to nail. But it's pretty cool. Also, you're gonna have to have quite deep pockets to go for that. But that's the usual Leica and these kind of lenses. But cool news either way. Then this is not really news, but it's been on a couple websites that I've seen. Is that Nikon still sells the F6. So if you want to buy a new film camera and you don't want to buy Leica MP or Leica MA, the M7's discontinued, you can buy the Nikon F6. It's around $2,000, but it will work with all the current lineup of Nikon lenses, not the Z lenses, but the normal G lenses and the older ones too. So just to make sure that if anyone out there wants to buy one, they can still do it. Then there's a little Pixl-ltr update that still the little piece that's missing is now too small. So he's going to have to do another iteration of it, which I have to say, Hamish, you're the most patient Kickstarter creator ever, because you're going through every single step. But yeah, it'll be hopefully available very soon. Then about Kodak, I read from Studio C41, the podcast, that the 8x10 Ektachrome will be available first quarter of 2020. So those of you who are in need of 8x10 slide film, that can be really nice. Also, Keith Canham will be taking already lists for special orders. So if you want Ektachrome in 11x14 or 20x24 inch, you can contact Keith Canham and he'll get you on the list. So make sure you check that out. That's pretty cool. Also, we have Chroma Camera has released or dropped kind of a little hint of their first retail camera that will be made. He's done a couple of upgrades. He's done 3D front printed parts and a couple other things. Aluminum little rails, U-rails for the front and I think the back, which is pretty cool. He moved away from the acrylic, which was never my best choice for material. So that's pretty cool. Hopefully it'll be coming very soon and the price is still very affordable. Then last week I mentioned about the Derrick, one of my Patreons and subscribers, that he designed a 3D piece for this Jobo CPP3. I forgot to mention he's made a couple of videos of the whole thing about buying a Jobo CPP3, setting it up, unboxing it, and so forth. So if you're interested, you should totally check it out. I'll leave the link to his videos below. I have a CPP3. I never made those videos, and I think it's very important because it's not an easy machine to just set up out of the box. So highly recommend that. Also from Ilford, we have my film story from Anton Ivanov. Anton is an actual friend of mine. I met him at Photokina 2016. It was random encounter. I knew him from Instagram and basically talked to him. We went out for dinner. Really cool guy. He's doing some really interesting stuff. He's one of the owners of the 20x24 enlarger, the horizontal enlarger by Hayland. And this is his whole story of shooting film and going up to mountaineering with a 5x7 and so forth. I'm going to leave it below. You should very much check it out. And also, for those who want to be part of the Patreon, I have a Patreon page, which you can check and help support the show. You can go from $1 to $2 to up to like 10 or more. But a little, very little bit will help me keep going with these news. For everyone that helped me get this second angle, thank you to you guys. You know who you are. But there'll be more content and better content coming to the show very, very soon, especially 2020. So yeah, guys, that's all for the news. Thank you, Negative Supply, for sponsoring the news. As always, you can send an email to the email below. Thank you for watching. See you next week.